Tonight on Sunday, is there a little bit of cruelty in every glass of milk?
I don't want to hurt farmers, but I do want to expose what goes on in these farms.
Is this our dairy industry's dark secret?
We saw calves being torn from their mothers, thrown into trucks and then beaten to death.
What do hundreds of hours of covert footage reveal?
The cow is clearly distressed by removal of her calf.
Yeah, pretty disappointed if that's how the dairy industry is going to be portrayed.
We ask how much damage will be done when the world sees these images.
We want to see how consumers are going to react when they find out the cruelty behind New Zealand dairy industry.
And the young Kiwi who this week is in front of millions of Russians.
Алекс Гилберт сегодня...
Kia ora, I'm Miriam Makamo. When we sit down to dinner or drink a glass of milk, we probably don't think too much about where it came from. But animal rights campaigners have declared war on our dairy industry, alleging cruelty. The evidence, they say, is in hundreds of hours of covert filming, and they want to attack the industry where it'll hurt most, on international markets. Tonight, we reveal the footage which activist group Farm Watch claims shows deliberate cruelty against helpless animals. Here's Ian Sinclair.
When you're driving through the countryside, it all looks idyllic and peaceful. But it's only when you look closer that you see that what we think is normal farming is absolute cruelty.
It should be pretty obvious, really, but to most of us city slickers, it isn't. In order to make the milk for your latte or your cup of tea, a cow has to get pregnant each season. But that raises the question, what happened to the calf that this milk was made for? To find out, the animal rights group Farm Watch set up hidden cameras to film numerous ordinary dairy farms across the Waikato.
For years, we've been hearing stories from people in farming communities about calves in trucks, calves being left on the side of the road.
Farm Watch wanted to track the fate of those animals known as bobby calves.
We needed to start using hidden cameras in order to find out how they were treating these animals when they thought no one was watching.
Have you got a thing about farmers then, dairy farmers?
I've got absolutely nothing against dairy farmers personally. I know they work incredibly long hours in very difficult conditions and that many of them end up earning less than the minimum wage. So this expose isn't vindictive, it isn't aimed at hurting dairy farmers. I don't want to hurt farmers, but I do want to expose what goes on in these farms.
Over months, they filmed the calves from birth.
So we've got footage of the cow being born in a muddy field, and then we've got the footage of the farmers coming and separating the calf from the mother. You see a farmer interacting with his stock and you think nothing more of it, but when you look closer you see that it's a farmer taking a baby away from its mother on the day it's been born. All dairy farms separate calves from their mothers, and that is inherent cruelty on every single dairy farm in the country.
So we showed that footage to Professor Clive Phillips, cow behaviour expert from Queensland University.
Yeah, the cow is clearly distressed by removal of her calf. The calf is being physically manhandled in a way which is, I think, quite unacceptable on a farm, being kicked and pushed, and the cow is responding to that.
This Oxford graduate has made cow behaviour a science.
We're now finding that when we look at the emotional lives of cows, there is scientific evidence saying that the animals are not being well treated.
Oh, he's driving off with them.
On another farm again, a scene that will play out millions of times each year. Just hours after birth, bobby calves taken from their mothers.
Firstly, you've got locomotion. The cows will continue walking after the calves. You've got vocalization as well, bellowing for probably at least a couple of days. You know, they will feel that separation anxiety.
You see, the cow walks over to see what's going on, turns its back, and now its calf is gone.
Yes. Yes, I guess she didn't see that coming, unfortunately.
Yet another farm, and Farm Watch films calves a few days old, ready for shipment to slaughter.
It's poignant that these are baby animals who have just been put in a crate in front of a farm and they're going to slaughter. That in and of itself I found upsetting.
While the milk meant for them is destined for the market, these calves have become a byproduct of the dairy industry. Each season, 2 million calves like these will head for slaughter.
And we came back later in the afternoon expecting to see that these calves had gone, and what we found was that these calves were still there. And it was a very hot day, and these calves had gone from being bright and interacting with us to lying on the bottom of the crate almost dead. These calves have been left at the side of the road in the hot sun all day without food or water or shelter of any kind.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing clear evidence of distress. We saw one there, eyes closed, head hooked back to the thorax. That's a condition that we call learned helplessness. The calf is saying, can't cope with this anymore, you know, I'm going to try and shut it out, I'll close my eyes and just hope something happens to return my mother or return me to more normal circumstances.
Farmers would say that footage was selective, that many farmers are good to their animals.
Well, I can tell you that we filmed every single calf in a crate that we saw, and we've given to you many hours of footage, and we haven't edited that.
The video features the dead as well as the dying.
We haven't gone through and selected the worst bits. I believe that the way that all of these calves are being treated is bad enough that the New Zealand public would be shocked.
At another farm, another example. At 5:34 a.m, these calves are left in a crate dropped outside the farm gate. As the camera shows, left without milk in the sun for hours.
So you're both destroying that very close bond between the mother and the calf, but also removing the calf's source of nutrients, removing the water supply.
A truck finally arrives at 1:55, almost 8.5 hours later.
And then on top of that, you've got the mistreatment and the manhandling, throwing of calves, for instance.
The Farm Watch footage has numerous shots of live calves being thrown in different locations around the Waikato.
The overcrowding on trucks and the long transportation times, all giving a picture of really quite severe stress to the calf at a very early age.
Next up, final destination, this slaughterhouse. Is anyone enforcing our laws on animal cruelty? They made that footage available 2 months ago. They've heard nothing back.
We have initiated an investigation, and I'm not going to comment further on our processes around that investigation.
And the threat of a global campaign against New Zealand dairy. Fonterra fronts up.
Yeah, pretty disappointed if that's how the dairy industry is going to be portrayed.
I wanted to make a statement and to let people know what's happening.
We're about to meet what might be the luckiest bobby calves in the land.
These are all ex-bobby calves, and they've all been rescued.
Now, some of them look pretty young. Deep in the Waikato, Lindley Tulloch has set up a bobby calf sanctuary.
I was aware that calves get slaughtered between 4 to 7 days of age, and I knew that it would be a highly unpleasant process, but I didn't realise that they were being abused to quite that extent.
She knows she can't save them all, but she can save some. Have they got names?
Yes, all of them have got names.
Do they know their names yet?
Yes, they do know their names.
Can you show me?
I can try. That's Faith. This one over here is Gabrielle. And at the back, Hope. Come on, Hope. Come on. Come have your milk.
How long did it take you to teach Hope?
Her name?
Her name?
A few days. They all know their
days.
name. Yep.
I just thought cows stood around in a field and mooed.
No, they're very, very complex creatures.
Do you accept that?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, cows can learn the sight of all their herd mates. They can do much more than we think they can, because we don't usually give them the opportunity to display their intelligence.
Hey, Luca.
And to Lindley, that intelligence
He's a
means
boy
the
twin.
animals will suffer all the more.
And he's just no level of care shown to the animal. It's just treated as an object. That's how I have seen farmers treat their cows.
Of course, the farmers would say, well, that's because we're in the food business. We have, hundreds of stock, and we can't cuddle everyone.
That's entirely true, which is probably a point that needs to be raised. Why are we abusing animals to this extent in such large numbers?
In order to record the short life cycle of these calves, FarmWatch tracked some of the trucks to a slaughterhouse, Down Cow Limited in Te Kaupata. These calves are bound for pet food. To check out the calves' treatment inside, FarmWatch rigged hidden cameras. We showed the footage to animal behaviour expert Professor Clive Phillips.
Now look, calves being thrown in.
Yeah.
Your response to that?
Well, I was just interested there. You saw that calf attempting to get up. There she goes again, attempting to get up, but other cars are thrown on top of her. And eventually she's managed to get to her feet. But these calves, you know, they really don't know what's going on.
We can't show you the worst of it, but amidst the kicking, the throwing of live animals, and even bashing on the head, there comes one extraordinary act of compassion, not from a worker, but a calf. A newborn calf stops to lick another injured animal until it gets up.
Cattle are very social animals, and that's not surprising because genetically these calves are probably related, and you know, they work on the basis if I help you, you'll help me at some future stage.
In Hans Creek's opinion, there should be a prosecution.
The slaughter footage is just beyond anything I've actually ever seen.
And Hans Creek has seen a lot. Today, he heads the animal rights group SAFE, but he used to be an SPCA inspector.
It clearly shows these animals being abused. You see him kicking young cows in the face. You see him shoving them around. These animals are thrown from quite a height, smack bang onto that concrete. That's just not acceptable. The moment we saw that footage, we realized that there was a serious problem happening, especially at the slaughterhouse. So a complaint was made to MPI, and to date we haven't heard back from them. So this is now about 2 months ago.
And what about the slaughterhouse itself? Well, we approached Down Cow owner Alan Cleaver to get his reaction to SAFE's complaint to the Ministry of Primary Industries about the actions of some of his workers.
Have MPI not got back to you? Because they told us that they showed all this stuff to MPI like 2 months ago.
No.
Alan Cleaver claimed he'd heard nothing about the video and was surprised by the accusations.
I've seen the footage. And I find some parts of it disappointing, and I recognise that that people who have watched that footage will find some of it distressing.
Matt Stone from the Ministry of Primary Industries. It's their job to enforce animal welfare laws industry-wide.
SAFE claim that they made that footage available 2 months ago. They've heard nothing back. Is that correct?
We have initiated an investigation, and I'm not going to comment further on our processes around that investigation.
How long ago did you initiate the investigation?
I'm not going to comment on our processes associated with the investigation.
But you can surely give me the time as to when you initiated the investigation.
I'm not going to comment on any of the processes associated with this investigation.
All right, then I have to say that we've spoken to the owner of the company, and he's surprised. He says he hasn't been contacted by MPI. So he's chosen to comment. Is this correct?
I think, again, I'm just going to reiterate that I'm not going to comment on the processes associated with this investigation.
As an industry, we need to get together fast to sort this out, because if things have been raised to MPI, they have an obligation to do something about it.
When it comes to New Zealand dairy, there's nothing bigger than Fonterra. Miles Hurrell is Group Director, Cooperative Affairs.
And the examples that I've worked with MPI in the past have been very proactive. So in this case, we need to work with them to resolve it, because the footage I've seen is disgusting in that regard.
Far from being placated, the activists are planning to hit the industry where it hurts most.
Given the fact that 95% of dairy is exported overseas, we will be talking to international consumers and show them how their dairy is produced. And we want to see how consumers are going to react when they find out the cruelty behind New Zealand dairy industry.
Yeah, pretty disappointed if that's how the dairy industry is going to be portrayed.
You say portrayed, but do you accept that that's how it is?
No, I don't. I mean, I think it's a very small minority of how the dairy industry in New Zealand operate. I mean, we have the vast majority of our farmers operate responsibly, and this is really sad to see this footage come to light.
You say a small minority, but they did film right across the Waikato, and they said everywhere they went, they saw cruelty. It doesn't sound small.
No, it doesn't sound small the way you outline of that, but let's talk to SAFE, let's understand what they have got, let's understand the farmers they went to, and we'll come down on them, because that's not great. MPI have a responsibility to step up and do something about this, and we'll work very closely with MPI to ensure they do.
If a bunch of enthusiasts with a camera managed to pick all that up, whereas a main player in a $15 billion industry didn't, what went wrong for Fonterra?
Well, I don't think it's Fonterra. I think the whole industry needs to take a look at itself in this case. We have MPI as the regulator. We need to work very closely with them. We have the meat industry, the transport operators, the Dairy Companies Association of New Zealand, and of course the RNZ that work very closely with our farmers. I think we all need to work together on this to get it sorted.
Could this be a PR disaster for you?
Well, I think it's pretty disappointing that if that's the way they're approaching it. I mean, we have an opportunity here in New Zealand Inc. to get together. If we've got issues across New Zealand Inc. and the dairy sector, let's get out and solve it without going off to the international markets to talk about it. As I say, very disappointing we're at this point.
Well, you say get together. Are you going to talk to them?
Yeah, we will. We've tried to reach out to SAFE since we got the footage yesterday. They're wanting to wait for this footage to be filmed, and hopefully we'll engage with them next week. But we're absolutely keen to talk to them and try and resolve it.
What would you say to them?
That we've acknowledged it. I mean, you can't hide behind the fact of what we've seen. I mean, as I say, it's very disappointing what the footage we've picked up on. We need to fix it, and the industry needs to take some responsibility to resolve this at the highest level.
But to animal rights campaigners, the problem isn't just the illegal practices, it's the legal ones too.
Do you accept that calf separation is cruel to the mother?
Yeah, but there are ways to do that. I mean, there are guidelines in place that are the most humane way to do that. I recognise that it's not easy, and it could be seen as a cruel practice, but it's a way. There are processes in place, guidelines in place to ensure that it's the most humane way.
Is there a problem, though, that the customers could go, yeah, we hear you, but actually we don't like to see 2 million bobby calves killed just so I can have a glass of milk. Maybe we'll go for something non-dairy. How would you counter that argument?
Yeah, I mean, there will always be that risk, I suspect, but I mean, it's a nutritious product. The benefits of dairy are well known to everybody, and I think that far outweighs the practices of actually getting that milk.
So while the killing of the bobby calves continues, there seems little sign of retreat from SAFE or FarmWatch. They've told Sunday their footage will go worldwide.
New Zealanders could answer, you're being unpatriotic, because what you're going to do, potentially, is undermine our economy.
Well, New Zealand claims that we have the highest animal welfare in the world. So if this is our highest animal welfare, well, then let's show the rest of the world and be proud of it. And if we're not that proud of it, then maybe we need to do something about it.